Hi everyone, we're going to talk about the elements of art today. So we're going to talk about line, shape, form, texture, space, perspective, value, and color. I would really love it if you took some notes because at the end of this, your assignment for the day will be to answer some questions in the discussion board. So take some notes. You can always refer back to this PowerPoint. The first element is line. Line is a mark made by a moving point and can often suggest movement. So this is a wonderful example. You have a lot of straight lines, and then as you get around here, it starts to wobble a little bit. Then it gets more curvy, and then you get a big old hill there. And the designer chose to keep straight lines behind it to emphasize the curved line. It looks really cool and is a good example for line. There are lots of different types of lines: curved, straight, diagonal, zigzag, dashed, or dotted, which is also implied line. Implied means you don't have to really say it, it's just assumed. So dashed lines are implied lines. Horizontal and outline. You have perpendicular, wavy, and parallel. This is an example of line. You can see the artist did a whole bunch of repeating repetitive lines and makes it look really cool and fluid. Here's a variety of lines. So the first thing you probably notice is the black and white lines. So depending on how you see, you might see a white shirt with black stripes, or you might see the reverse, a black shirt with white stripes. But then the artist also did the portrait much more with different thicknesses of lines. So you can have a skinny line or wide line. You can have it straight. It can be fluid. You put a bunch of lines together, it eventually makes a solid color. So this is a really good example for a variety of lines. Now, sculpture is three-dimensional. So this is a bundle of wire that they then, which is a line that's three-dimensional, and then they manipulated it to make it look like this old telephone. This is an installation. So an installation is when an artist uses an entire room to create artwork. And this artwork is created with line. So each of these little dots are lights that are actually put onto the walls and ceilings of the room. And then if you're standing in a certain place in the installation, you will see the end result, which is pretty cool. So for this project, this is your first project, we're going to do artist trading cards. And so that's what you need index cards for. You're going to take one index card, and I want that card to be all about line. You get a choice. So you can do my line example here, and I've made a YouTube tutorial for it, and I walk you through all the steps on how to do it just like this. Or you can make your own trading card, artist trading card, but it needs to be very clear that that is a line artwork. There's lots of things you can Google, Pinterest, find things that emphasize line. But if you choose to do your own design, which is what we would be doing if you were in class, physically in class, just make sure it's obvious that I could, if I'm flipping through your cards, I can go, oh, that's their line. And then you get A+++++. Excuse me. So the second element is shape. Shape is in an enclosed space that has length and width. So these are leaves, which were made by lines, and you can have just one shape, or you could have the shape with lines that help make a texture. This is shape with a straight line that lets you know it's a leaf. Shape can be used in all sorts of ways. So here you have several half circles, and they're only half circles because of the color. But then as you come to the other side, and depending on how you see things, you might see whole circles. I would say this composition is a whole circle. Then when you start overlapping, you create other shapes. So in this class, it's super important. We're going to start simple. You start with one shape. Then when you put a bunch of that one shape into an artwork, it creates a more complex image. So here's shape in photography. So these are kiwis, which a whole kiwi is like a circle. And then if you cut out a triangle, that's another shape. Then when you put 3 kiwis with the cutout triangles together and you arrange them in your composition, the negative space then becomes a shape. So, mind blown. There are 2 types of shape. The first type of shape is geometric shape. These are shapes created by straight or perfectly curved lines. You have your square, your rectangle, a circle, oval, triangle, pentagon, hexagon, octagon. We use geometric shapes to help us draw complex images. So this horse is a great example. So the body of the horse is really 2 large circles. You connect the circles with a line at the top and the bottom. When you get to the legs, they're more like that's like a rectangle, circle, small rectangle, triangle. So I will help you as we progress through this semester look for simple shapes. So when I say simple, I'm referring to the geometric shapes. This is a watercolor geometric painting. The second type of shape is organic. So these are free form lines that connect to create unique shapes. There is no rhyme or reason for organic shape. It's very flowy, hippy-dippy. These often are fun to do if you are having a creative block, a brain fart, you don't know what to do. You could just take your pen or pencil throughout the whole composition, and then based on your organic lines, they create organic shapes, and it looks pretty cool. Organic shapes are often inspired or come from nature, things that are alive. These are organic shapes. And this is a cool installation. It's a ceiling, actually. So, for your artist trading card project, you can do this exact shape artist trading card. It doesn't have to be exact in terms of color and stuff. The YouTube tutorial is here. Or you can do your own, but it needs to be clearly a shapes, okay? So sometimes it gets confusing, like when I was deciding what to do for this artist trading card, I wanted to just focus on shapes. If you Google shape, all kinds of stuff comes up because you'll notice eventually the elements, when you use a bunch together, create the principles, and you can always have multiple elements in one card. So try and focus on the specific term for this card, which is shape. Then we go to form. Form is a 3-dimensional object that has height, width, length, thus creates volume. Form is usually a sculpture or an object. So these are candle votives that you can actually hold in your hand. Now when we're drawing, the whole point of drawing is to try to make something look realistic usually, so that is where form comes into place. So the only reason this shape, which is a circle, looks 3-dimensional or like a form is because of the value. So this blue is light blue here, and then it goes to more of a darker blue. So without value, you won't get your form, which we'll get to in a second with value. So here, try to imagine just a square, a pink square, which is a shape. Then if I use line to build off from my pink square and connect the lines, but then change the colors inside, it creates a form. The cylinder is really an oval with 2 lines down and then a slight smiley face with value changing colors. That's a cylinder. The cone is really the top of a triangle shape with a curved bottom. Helps make it look like a form. And then the pyramid is really a square on its side like a diamond with a line going through the center. You change the 2 colors, It looks like a pyramid. So it's all about manipulating and tricking the viewer into thinking what they see is a form, when in reality, us as artists know those are lines and shapes and value put together to help create a form. So this is a good example of how you take shapes, or this template, and then when you fold it, bend it, stand it up, it looks like a home, which is a form. If you're into theater and stage design, movie designs, set designs, oftentimes they use blocks of styrofoam that they then carve, and it creates these really cool structures, architectural structures, and they're making these blocks turn into forms. It's very cool. For your artist trading card, I did a watermelon, and then I have the YouTube tutorial right here. You are welcome to do your own. Just again, please, if I'm going through your stack of cards, I want to be able to guess that, oh, that's the form card. So whatever you draw, make sure it looks like a form, three-dimensional. So now we're on to texture. Texture is tricky. Texture is the surface quality usually perceived through the sense of touch. So perceived means we see it. I can see this texture on the screen, but if I touch it right now, I won't feel it. I'll feel smooth. So this is perceived through the sense of touch. This, at first I thought this was clay, but it's actually fabric folded and manipulated to look like texture, and this is a photograph. All right, so there's two types of texture. There's actual texture. So this is old CDs, and we can actually touch this sculpture. Then there's implied texture, and this is, we work on this all the time as artists. So you draw to trick the eye into thinking it's real. So these are rocks or pebbles, but the artist made it look like there's water going over them, and it's amazing. And the reality is these are just organic, funky shapes that the water makes, and if we as artists can look beyond that, this is a rock and it's water, and you just focus on the funky organic shapes, it makes it look very realistic. When I first saw this, I thought it was a painting because it's so smooth, but it's really a colored pencil drawing. So I was thoroughly impressed with this. So here's some other textures. Animal skins are great textures to practice on. Now I haven't made a card for this yet, so you'll have to check the YouTube page, see what we need to do, and then if you choose to do your own texture, that's fine, but check the YouTube page. You might like what I did too. For space, space indicates the area between, around, above, below, or within things. So here you can see the hummingbird has very cool line texture drawing here. And then on the right side, the background has the cool line and texture drawings. So it's emphasizing this space. There's space of the animal and then the space of the air around the animal. So positive space, there's two types of space. Positive space is the actual object. This is a sculpture. The positive space is this gentleman or person, I don't know, holding up this female, and then you have this apparatus around it, okay? The negative space, which is the second type, is the air around it. So negative space, like I just said, the air surrounding the object. So here, where the body would be is the negative space, and where the arms and head are is the positive space. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with space. I like it because you really get the viewer involved in the artwork, and they go, huh, when they look at it. We also use positive and negative space to help draw things correctly. You'd be amazed at how much using the negative space to correctly draw the positive space. You'd be amazed at how much we do that. This is a cool Instagram challenge that was going around a while ago. You take a piece of paper, you cut out a silhouette, you put it the background is a texture, but the negative space is the cut